Today we're going to be looking at 10 players with upside to help you build your fantasy team. We're going to be looking at those diamonds in the rough. We're going to be looking at some top tier guys who have some tremendous upside to help you win your league, help you build the back end of your roster. And we're going to be helping you with the waiver wire here in the future. So that's why you're going to need to hit that subscribe button right now. Stop missing out. We got training camp clips too, so you can see what's under the hood with a lot of these players as they're transitioning with their new teams, as their rookies starting to onboard to the NFL, as some of these players just start ramping up for the NFL season. If you're not hitting that button, you're missing out, and you're not going to get the information that you need to help build your fantasy teams. But let's move forward. Let's take a look at who we're seeing today, and it's Tony Pollard first, RB11 in ADP. Tremendous value because he's healthy, he's looking good in camp, fully recovered from the surgery, from the injury, and we know he can be productive. We know he can get a lot of workload in this offense, and this offense needs him too as much as we need him to be productive, and he can provide RB1 production all year long because he's a good player who's very explosive and can be used in all phases. And the fact that you're catching him at RB11, pretty much RB2 range right there, pretty much RB2 price tag. This is per Underdog Fantasy with their ADP. That means you're catching an RB1 at a very, very good price tag here, who could give you top 5 upside at the position because he's going to be getting the volume and he's on an offense that can fuel him. They can't stack the boxes because the wide receivers are going to stretch the field. This is a team that's going to be in some shootouts, so the game scripts are going to help him out a bit. Tony Pollard's got a lot of upside. The only worry was the injury, but he's already looking good in camp. He's already balling out. He's already doing some good things. So there's really nothing to worry about Tony Pollard here. And really, at this price tag, very good get in fantasy, especially if you want to load up with wide receivers early and then get another running back to help anchor it down. That way you're good at wide receiver and running back in those first 5 rounds of the draft. That crucial and critical point of the draft that really helps you build your team. You're good on both ends. You got a good running back here. You have some good wide receivers. Very good strategy to lean into, just being good at both positions before you get out of round 5. Next, we're looking at Ty Chandler, RB62. So we're going at another end of the spectrum here. Better pay attention to this video because we're going to be all over the place. But it looks like he's earned that RB2 job here with the Vikings. A lot of volatility in his team, a lot of ambiguity, but the thing we like about him is the upside. He was a preseason darling last year as a rookie, and now that he's getting more run in the offense with Dalvin Cook gone, we might see him get some spike weeks. This might be more of a waiver wire get later than a draft pick, especially for a lot of you in basic redraft leagues in the normal format, but we're looking at a running back here who runs a 4.38, who's proven to be explosive, who's been a camp darling before, that was last year, a guy that can be productive if given the opportunity, and we're just shooting upside. We're shooting upside, we're looking at RB62. It's not even a bet. It's not even a bet. Once your rosters start turning over in season, and you're seeing him get some touches, and it could be just a little bit. It could be just a 15% opportunity share. It could be a 10% opportunity share. And your depth chart's turning over, players are getting hurt, and you're looking for upside on waiver wire. Look at Ty Chandler, look how he's getting touches, look how he's being used, and if something happens to where he gets the lead job, you need to be all in on the waiver wire. If you're in a deep league, you may want to draft him. If you're in a deep league, you may want to look at him. Pay attention to the rest of these preseason games, see what the work rate is, but this guy's got upside. This guy's a lottery ticket. We love lottery tickets here in the deep part of drafts, off the waiver wire or however we get them. We love these cheap players who have tons of upside. 4.3840 with a little bit of size says upside. And did I mention the Vikings had the 7th fastest paced offense in the league last year, can really turn it and burn it and keep the chains moving. So that's good. That keeps the team on the field. And they don't need a stud running back. They got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They can move the football. They're going to keep him on the field if he gets the job due to attrition. You're going to have to pay attention to see what happens with Ty Chandler. There's a lot of upside here. Next, Gerald Everett. He's fallen in price. He was the tight end 16 in ADP. Now he's tight end 22. I don't know what happened there, but that did happen on Underdog Fantasy. So he's falling in value. But last year, he gave you tight end 11 results and points per game, 7 tight end 1 weeks. The one thing about tight end 1 weeks is that's a sketchy number because there are a few weeks out of the season, about 3 or so on average from year to year, where like the tight end 8 to 12 won't score much more than the tight end 25. But we do have Justin Herbert there. He is fueling the offense. He is fueling Gerald Everett and the rest of the pass catchers. Accurate targets downfield. Herbert's healthy. They're ready to rock and roll. He was 9th in routes ran among tight ends, 8th in yards after the catch, 5th in red zone targets. There's a lot of good things to look at here. We have a little bit more competition in the offense with Quentin Johnston there, but you still need the tight end. He's in a good spot. Tight end 22. If you're looking for a dirt cheap tight end, or if you're just playing late tight end and just streaming, you got to look at Gerald Everett. Next is Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 3 ADP. Upside for days, and one reason I want to bring him up because I really haven't talked about him much. He had that boating incident, and that's about the only time I really talked about him, so I got to talk about him so you guys are in the know. That's why he's here today. But with Tua, the big thing about this is he's averaging 21.76 points per game. So when Tua is healthy on the field, he is balling out. You're talking about potential wide receiver 1 numbers. I'm not wide receiver 1 top 12. I'm talking about the wide receiver 1. 6.93 catches per game. Dude's getting deep targets, air yards downfield. This is how he produces. We all know that. But the fact that he's getting you damn near 22 points per game with Tua when he's on the field, that's something to perk your ears up to. That's something to pay attention to. Wide receiver 3 in ADP is very expensive, but you got to pay attention to that. The price tag might be too expensive for you. You may want to lean something else, but also that nugget is something you need to know if you did not know that. Next is Dalton Kincaid, tight end 11 in ADP. And reason why we're talking about that is because we are catching him running with the first team consistently with the Bills offense, also being used a lot as a wide receiver. The athleticism checks out, 4.68 40-yard dash, 70th percentile size adjusted speed score, first round draft pick in college football last year. He led all tight ends in targets in a lot of weeks. He had a lot of spike performances. One of the best pass-catching tight ends in all of college football, and we were on the know for that. He was really blowing it up. He came out there, was very productive. Now we're with the Bills. You want pieces of this Bills offense. You want these explosive offenses. You want these offenses who are consistently moving the chains. You want the good quarterbacks here. Dalton Kincaid, tight end 11 ADP. Tight end 2 value. And you're shooting for upside here because there's unknown here because he's a rookie. He's on an explosive offense. You don't know how he's going to be implemented. You got that here. You got the upside factor as well. At a cheap price tag. And if you're really going cheap at tight end, but you don't want to go too crazy with it, maybe Dalton Kincaid could be your guy. Maybe. Take a look at that. Now we're going even cheaper here. Alvin Kamara, RB27 ADP. The suspension did not hurt him too bad, and he's still going at a value on Underdog Fantasy, which means he should be a value in your basic redraft leagues as well. It should be very comparable, but he's an RB3 right now in value, and we can still get those spike weeks. We're averaging 14.6 points per game, and that's due to some spike weeks because on any given moment, on any given matchup, he can go nuclear. What we're seeing from training camp is they are using him a lot in the passing game, running a lot of routes. He's looking explosive. Maybe a couple games off might be good for him anyways for the longevity of the season. This might even play into the hands of fantasy football gamers anyways, the suspension, because he is an older running back. So a couple games off, a couple games to get ready, tuned up. That might be a good thing anyways. And RB27. That is not a bet when you're looking at running backs. That is not a bet. You're talking about you're drafting him to get red candlesticks right down there. The red lines is what RB27 would be on any given week. So if he gives you a half season of the black lines, and you know there's going to be green ones in there, you're going to get a return on investment. Think of it that way. If you're past RB25, you're expected to get red lines on most of your graph down there on your weekly performances. That's what you're expected to do due to what the market's saying in ADP. That's what the market's saying. That's what they're expecting. They're not paying up for that. That's what the price tag said. It doesn't mean they think the player is from a micro standpoint. Obviously, we got the suspension baked in there and everything else, but still, that's what the price says about the player and what you're paying in the price. The price tag says, hey, you're probably going to get a return on investment here as long as he's on the field. Next, Drake London, wide receiver 23 in ADP, and that's due to the Falcons offense. A lot of disdain with Ritter right now. A lot of people don't know if he can check the boxes, but with 4 games with Ritter, averaged 14.57 fantasy points per game. Kyle Pitts was out on some of those. 29% target share on the season, 29% share of the air yards as a rookie. Those are good numbers. Those are elite workload rates for a wide receiver, and that's good to see. Should still get targets downfield, should still see a large volume of the passing targets, and that's what you want to chase. And we're going into our second year. Usually, good wide receivers going into their second year tend to start to blossom if they haven't already. He's also shown it a little bit in the league. He's also shown us some clues. He's also flashed a little bit for us. So you can't be really scared of Drake London. He's a guy that you're taking a bet on to hit on some upside. There is a lot of upside with this guy. You're talking about a first-round wide receiver. You're talking about a guy with length. You're talking about a guy who's expected to be the alpha in this offense. Can this team click? Can they move the ball? Doesn't even matter in certain matchups. We're going to have to see. But the workload, the work rates here are saying that there's a lot of opportunity. There's a good chance that he can cash in on it. Next, Zay Jones. Wide receiver 58 in ADP, and I told you need to stick around because we're going to be all over the place today. He was wide receiver 31 in points per game on the field on 2 wide receiver sets in preseason. Looking good there. He's playing on the outside. Depth chart went out today, or another depth chart that I just saw. Him, Ridley on the outside, and then you're going to have Christian Kirk in the slot, and that's probably going to be their main thing. Ridley is going to command targets. That's what we're going to expect. But Zay Jones is on the Jaguars. There is going to be volume in this offense, and you're not paying for Jones at all. You're not paying for him at all. He's in double-digit rounds. He's fallen in drafts. He's free. He's part of this offense. If you're weak at wide receiver and you're in double-digit rounds, you may want to think about him. May even be chilling on waivers. We got to see how things go in basic redraft leagues. 12th in red zone targets, 17th in receptions. Dude is money in this offense. He's got a history with Lawrence. He can be productive, and he might be a spike week sensei, giving you some boom games here and there, and you just got to play the matchups and hope for the best. But at wide receiver 58, we have to point out the discounts. We have to point out these players who are down there in rankings because we already been talking about, and everyone else have already been talking about, all the top guys anyways. Let's look at some of these deeper guys, and let's talk about how they can be productive, how they can help you win, so you can strategize when you're in season. When it comes to October and you're trying to put this lineup together and you see Zay Jones on waivers or he's on the back end of your roster and you're trying to think about him. Let's talk about this now. Let's get you ready for mid-season when things really matter. Now let's go to Cam Akers, RB23 in ADP. He's cheap, pushing RB3 range and value, and he played hot at the end of the season, was in the doghouse in the start, coming off from the Achilles injury, came back at the back half of the season, looking fresh, looking good. We had some controversy between week 6 and 8, if you remember that. But again, double-digit fantasy points to finish the year. They did not really draft anyone of consequence or bring in any running backs of consequence either. They did not do that. So you're looking at Cam Akers here as getting the lone share of this backfield, getting worked to death, running a lot of carries. They're really going to pound him. That's just what is being projected here. And you may want to take a stab at that, especially at this price tag. You're looking to get him at a cheap price tag. You don't want him as your RB1. I don't think you'd feel good at that unless you're very stacked at wide receiver and then you just happen to catch him just for the touches that you're projecting him to get. That's a good deal if you're just chasing touches out of this backfield and you need a guy getting 15 touches a game or so, and you're catching him at an RB23 price tag. That's something you may want to look at. Speaking of Cam Akers, Zach Evans, RB75 in ADP, so you're not drafting him. You're not drafting him at all, but you need to be thinking about him. If something happens to Akers, he's going to get some opportunity, and we're thinking about upside here. We're thinking about how explosive he is. 4.21 yards after contact per attempt, former 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Very good running back prospect. We're watching him in preseason, watching some people break down the film. I'm looking at the film. I'm seeing the line not doing their due diligence there, and he's still getting more than what's blocked. There's a lot of upside here. We're not talking about a running back that you put in who's just going to be good. It's feast or famine. It's feast or famine. They're going to put him in there. It's either not going to be looking good or it's going to be incredible. And this is a running back you need to pay attention to mid-season or whenever. If something does happen to Cam Akers, if touches start to open up and Zach Evans gets an opportunity and people are talking about it, run to the waiver wire and pick him up. Keep an eye on him. I know a lot of people want to talk about Kyren Williams. I get it. We talked about him a lot last year, and a lot of people like him. He is fantasy football's favorite backup quarterback, and I can tell you from the views on the videos. But I'm going to tell you right now, if we're going to talk about upside, we're going to be talking about Zach Evans, because Kyren Williams is going to get some opportunity alongside of Cam Akers as the 1B. But Zach Evans, if he gets an opportunity, it's feast or famine, boom or bust. You want to be in on the boom, and that's what we're chasing here. And I'm not telling you draft him. He's RB75. You can if you want. You can if you see something in preseason. This might become outdated, and I might change my mind here in a day or two after some games. That might happen. But RB75 and ADP in basic redraft, watch him. Watch him. Watch the tea leaves. And we do more than just help you for your draft here in these final weeks of August and into September as we're getting ready to start the season. We want to get you ready for the waiver wire. We want to get you ready for those decisions you're going to have to make, because now's the time to start thinking. You want to be ahead of schedule. You want to be knowing who has the potential on that waiver wire that if they get an opportunity to go nuclear, not just getting touches, because some running backs, they get touches and they might give you some production. But if this guy gets 10 to 12 touches and he's got that opportunity for 3 weeks, can he go nuclear? Can he sneak an RB8 week, an RB7 week? That's what you want to look at. Same with wide receivers. You want to look at those players who can go nuclear, who is going to be on the waiver wire, and you want to watch them every week and pay attention to what they're doing and how your league is valuing them. And then you want to be proactive, quick, pulling the trigger and getting them off the waiver wire, because you want them on your team for when they do get their opportunity. One as a trade target, a guy you can just trade away, or a guy that could go off on your team and help you win your championship. That's one thing we want to look at. That's why we want to turn and burn our rosters. That's why we're looking at upside guys here in the back end of our draft. We are really going to be active on the waiver wire, and we're going to win this league. But let me know what you think, who you're trying to get, who you're drafting, who is your guy in your league this year, who you're getting, who you're drafting, who you're wanting. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Catch you on the next video.